I'm wondering if you could just, I mean, we all saw the trailer, but maybe speak just a little bit more about the synopsis of Radium Girls and what made you want to make this movie.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've been a producer for a long time. I have a production company in New York, but I really wanted to find a project to marry my environmental passions with my storytelling career. And I wanted to find the right project because narrative storytelling is really what I do. And I looked around for a long time. And when I came across this screenplay that was written by Brittany Shaw and Ginny Moeller, it really just captured me because it's a story told through the eyes of two teenage girls. And they were girls that had dreams. They were working in this glow in the dark watch dial, factory in Orange, New Jersey, really thinking that one was going to go to Hollywood, one wants to go to Egypt and do archaeological digs. And then this reality sets in when the scandal is uncovered that the radium company who was making money, hand over foot, churning out, not just, watch dials here, but radium was kind of a craze and a fascination at that time in the 1920s. But it really, it was a film where I felt like we could amplify the part of the story that really I think is quite remarkable is the coming of age, the standing up to the corporation, the raising their voices in a way that was noticed by other activist women during the time. This was part of the early women's political movement when women had just gotten the right to vote. They wanted to use it. They were very involved in this sort of wild west of industrialization. There was no toxic chemical regulation. There was no child labor regulation. It was, an area that was just rife for people to come in who cared about social causes and worker safety. So that part of it also really interested me. I think also, a lot of people have asked me why something historical, why history? And I have always felt that in terms of what we do, and I think we all face this in the conversations that we have with people, there is something about people being able to take on board something that they can't see. And even though we're living in this, time right now where, we're able to really see the impact of climate change more so than we ever have. But in some ways, because you have to measure it to understand it, which is why I applaud all the scientists that are here with everybody tonight, because we really need to keep going back to the science, because that's really what shows us, that really shows us the trajectory and it shows us what's happening. It's really meaningful. But I think when you look at a story that happened in history, and you could look at Chernobyl this way, because Chernobyl, the miniseries that HBO made, was very successful. It really impacted people. It's a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It happened, and you can kind of look back, and and there's a lot of lessons to learn by just going through the course of the story, what the characters experienced, thinking what kind of questions or decisions they had to make, and what kind of questions and decisions we should be asking and decisions we should be making today. When we originally started the project, I was thinking about things like Flint, the water in Flint. And in fact, one of our investors was somebody who was from Michigan, and she really connected to the story because of that. And now we're finding ourselves releasing the movie during the pandemic. And we didn't intend to. We were supposed to release the movie in April. Our trailers were already playing in theaters. We have a big sort of a teen star she's become a young woman, Joey King. And so it looked like we had a very promising release ahead of us. And then we shuttered the week before the release. Cuomo shuttered the theaters, and we went into this moment of uncertainty. And we were watching what was happening with virtual cinema models. And, that essentially, independent filmmakers like myself, we were watching how, it started with Kino Lorber and some of the smaller, and now the studios and everybody's trying to get their digital platform together. But the independent distributors wanted to support the theaters. They wanted to support the cinemas and help people keep their doors open while we sort of navigated our way through this crisis. And then I noticed that there were some smart independent distributors who are also using this model to bring on affinity groups.
Mhm.
And that really interested me a lot because our movie really does embody a lot of different themes. We have environmental justice, we have science, we have women's history, we have, you know, we just have, it speaks to young girls, it speaks to older people, it speaks to everybody, really.
Right.
And so we started to think about what affinity groups and people who we could partner with. And at this point, we actually released our film October 23rd. We're about halfway through a theatrical window before we go to Netflix in January. And we're using this time for a social impact campaign. And the campaign is really to engage with big groups and screen the movie and do Q&As and really engage in conversations about all of these different relevant themes. And the minute that we did release, and I really wanted us to get it out before the election, it
Mhm.
was shocking the parallels between COVID and the radium factory situation, because again, it's something you can't see. It was something that's making everybody sick. Some people are dying. Governments are looking away. You know, science, we don't know everything about it yet. And the journals really picked up on that, and it's sort of created another level of heightened interest in the story.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Wow, fantastic. I mean, I of course I want to talk with you for another hour, but we don't have time. And
Yeah.
and I just want to let everybody know that this is just a sneak preview, because on December the 15th, we are having a whole panel dedicated to the movie, and Lydia is going to join, and her co-director and writer, Ginny Muller. We have one of the actresses in the movie, Kobe Minifee. Is it Minifee? Minifee.
Yes.
And we'll also be bringing in a scientist yet to be named to help set some more context. But in order to help support the movie, what we're doing, as Lydia said, I'm just going to get the links out, Lydia, and maybe we can chat a bit more. But as Lydia said, we are offering the movie up for a nominal ticket price of $12. That money will help recoup the money for the budget. Am I right in that? Yeah. And also a small amount will be donated to our chapter, which will help us with all our operating costs, like our Zoom subscription and our MailChimp subscription. So here I'm going to put a couple of links that I want you all to click on so that they're in your browser. One is the link that you can buy the movie, and then you have 30 days to watch it. Perfect thing to give as a Thanksgiving gift, I would say. I've seen the movie, it's brilliant. It really does, you've evoked something. And we were speaking earlier, maybe I'll give the links. I'll let you answer this as I'm putting the links up. Lydia and I were speaking earlier yesterday, and she was saying to me, and it really hit me, that you know, how do I make a movie about something that's so depressing? And how can I empower people? And, you know, I thought that was a wonderful motive, because it so relates to the times that we're in right now. We're in such challenging times, and how do we feel empowered? So I'm going to let you speak to that while I post some links.
Yeah, well, and you can kind of take it even further now in the time of COVID, because I think we all live with so much sort of anxiety about the future and what is really happening, and not feeling like we have a lot of control. But I think that actually is the angle for, you know, for coming at it. We're embarking on a campaign with the Sierra Club around their toxics and health program. And we were talking about that as well. Like, how can we, like, you know, all of the conversation about PFAs and PFOAs and the things that people really aren't paying attention to, or all the regulations that have been rolled back by our president that need to be repositioned. I mean, there's so many things actually genuinely to be terribly frightened about, but how do you communicate it into a position of strength? And I feel like, you know, the same thing that as it happened with the Radium Girls, where so many people came together and lifted them up. I mean, the activist women from the women's movement really raised their story to a national level with the media machine behind it. And I feel like what we've seen in our election And what we've seen just happen shows what can happen if we believe in the power of our voice. I think a lot of what has happened is that we've lost faith in that power. But I think we just had this kind of real evidence of what it can mean. And I think that's the way we'd like to go out of the gate with our campaign around toxic chemical regulation and around things that people need to know about, but not in a way that it's hopeless. You know, in a way that we can make a change if we pick up our heads and acknowledge that we have that power.